Urraca, called the Reckless, was Queen of León, Castile, and Galicia, and claimed the imperial title as su jure Empress of all the Spains from 1109 until her death in childbirth, and Empress of all Galicia. Life. Early years. Born in Burgos, Urraca was the eldest and only surviving child of Alfonso VI of Leon with his second wife Constance of Burgundy. For this, she was heiress presumptive of the kingdoms of Castile and Leon until 1107, when her father recognized his illegitimate son Sancho as his heir. Urraca's place in the line of succession made her the focus of dynastic politics, and she became a child bride at age 8 to Raymond of Burgundy, a mercenary adventurer. Author Bernard F. Riley suggests that, rather than a betrothal, the 8-year-old Urraca was fully wedded to Raymond of Burgundy, as he almost immediately appears in protocol documents as Alfonso VI's son-in-law, a distinction that would not have been made without the marriage. Riley doubts that the marriage was consummated until Urraca was 13, as she was placed under the protective guardianship of a trusted magnate. Her pregnancy and stillbirth at age 14 suggest that the marriage was indeed consummated when she was 13 or 14 years old. Urraca's marriage to Raymond was part of Alfonso VI's diplomatic strategy to attract cross-Pyrenees alliances, and she gave birth to children, a daughter, Sancha Raymonde, and a son, Alfonso Raymonde, who would become Alfonso VII. However, Raymond died in 1107, leaving Urraca a widow with 2 small children. Urraca became again an heiress presumptive after the death of her brother Sancho at the Battle of Ucleacutas in 1108. Alfonso VI reunited the nobles of the kingdom in Toledo and announced that his widowed daughter was the chosen one to succeed him. The nobles agreed with the royal designation but demanded that Urraca should marry again. Several candidates for the hand of the heiress to the thrones of Leon and Castile appeared immediately, including Counts Gómez González and Pedro González de Lara. Alfonso VI feared that the rivalries between Castilian and Leonese nobles would be increased if she married any of these suitors, and decided that his daughter should wed Alfonso I of Aragon, known as the Battle, opening the opportunity for uniting Leon Castile with Aragon. Marriage negotiations were still underway when Alfonso VI died on the 29th of June. The 1st of July 1109, and Urraca became queen. Many of Alfonso VI's advisors and leading magnates in the kingdom formed a quiet opposition to the marriage of the queen to the King of Aragon. According to Bernard F. Riley, these magnates feared the influence the King of Aragon might attempt to wield over Urraca and over Leonese politics. Urraca protested against the marriage but honored her late father's wishes and continued with the marriage negotiations, though she and her father's closest advisors were growing weary of Alfonso I's demands. Despite the advisors' opposition, the prospect of Count Henry of Portugal filling any power vacuum led them to go ahead with the marriage, which took place in early October 1109 at the castle of Monzón de Campos, with the major of the fortress, Pedro Anchoas, acting as godfather of the wedding. As events unfolded, these advisors underestimated Urraca's political prowess, and later advised her to end the marriage. The marriage of Urraca and Alfonso I almost immediately sparked rebellions in Galicia and scheming by her illegitimate half-sister Teresa and brother-in-law Henry, the Countess and Count of Portugal. Also, they believed that the new marriage of Urraca could put in jeopardy the rights of the the son of her first marriage, Alfonso Raimundo. One of the first acts of the new spouses was to sign a pact under which the monarchs granted to each other soberana potestas over the other's kingdom, declaring heir of both the future children and, in the case that the union was childless, the surviving spouse would succeed the other one in the throne. From the start, the Galician faction was divided in two tendencies, one headed by Diego Gelmírez, Archbishop of Santiago de Compostela, and another led by Count Pedro Froilas de Traba, tutor of the young prince. A third group of opposition to the royal marriage was at the court and was headed by Count Gómez González, whose motivation against Urraca and Alfonso I of Aragon could have been his fear of losing power, a sensation soon confirmed when Alfonso I appointed Aragonese and Navarrese nobles for important public posts and as holders of fortresses. From Galicia, the Count of Traba began the first aggressive movement against the monarchs, reclaiming the hereditary rights of Alfonso Raimundo. In response to the Galician rebellion, Alfonso I of Aragon marched with his army to Galicia and in 1110, re-established the order, thereafter defeating the local troops in Monterosso Castle. The Galician rebellion against the royal power was only the beginning of a series of political and military conflicts which, with the complete opposite personalities of Urraca and Alfonso I and the mutual dislike, gave rise to a continuous civil war in the Hispanic kingdoms over the following years. As the relationship soured, Urraca accused Alfonso of physical abuse, and by May 1110 she separated from Alfonso. In addition to her objections to Alfonso's handling of rebels, the couple had a falling out over his execution of one of the rebels who had surrendered to the Queen, to whom the Queen was inclined to be merciful. Additionally, as Urraca was married to someone many in the kingdom objected to, the Queen's son and heir became a rallying point for opponents to the marriage. Estrangement between husband and wife escalated from discreet and simmering hostilities into open armed warfare between the Leonese Castilians and the Aragonese. An alliance between Alfonso of Aragon and Henry of Portugal culminated in the 1111 Battle of Candespina, in which Urraca's lover and chief supporter, Gómez González, was killed. He was soon replaced in both roles by another Count, Pedro González de Lara, who took up the fight and would father two of Urraca's children. By the fall of 1112 a truce was brokered between Urraca and Alfonso with the marriage annulled. Though Urraca recovered Asturias, Leon, and Galicia, Alfonso occupied a significant portion of Castile, while her half-sister Teresa and her husband Count Henry of Portugal occupied Zamora and Extremadura. Recovering these regions and expanding into Muslim lands would occupy much of Urraca's foreign policy. According to author Bernard F. Riley, the measure of success for Urraca's rule was her ability to restore and protect the integrity of her inheritance, that is, the kingdom of her father, and transmit that inheritance in full to her own heir. Policies and events pursued by Alfonso VI, namely legitimizing her brother and thereby providing an opportunity for her illegitimate half-sister to claim a portion of the patrimony, as well as the forced marriage with Alfonso I of Aragon, contributed in large part to the challenges Urraca faced upon her succession. Additionally, the circumstance of Urraca's gender added a distinctive role reversal dimension to diplomacy and politics, which Urraca used to her advantage. Character: Urraca is characterized in the Historia Compostelana as prudent, modest, and with good sense. According to Riley, the Historia Compostelana also attributes her failings to her gender, the weakness and changeability of women, feminine perversity, and calls her Jezebel for her liaisons with her leading magnates, with at least one relationship producing an illegitimate son. These observations were hardly neutral or dispassionate, according to Riley, who wrote, "Here is no question that the Queen is in control, perhaps all too much in control, of events. Urraca's use of sex in politics should be viewed more as a strategy that provided the Queen with allies but without any masters." Death and legacy. As Queen, Urraca rose to the challenges presented to her, and her solutions were pragmatic ones, according to Riley, and laid the foundation for the reign of her son Alfonso VII, who, in spite of the opposition of Urraca's lover Pedro González de Lara, succeeded to the throne of a kingdom whole and at peace at Urraca's death, in 1126. Ancestry.